family is perfect, except for my mom, my dad, me, and my older brother, Luke. Actually, it's just Luke bringing down our reputation. I'm kidding. While most siblings fight, we didn't. Well, nothing serious. Though Luke did throw a baseball at my face and broke my nose. I was supposed to catch it. Luke reminded me. For months. I come from a sarcastic family. It's our love language. Many people see sarcasm as hostile, argumentative, and childish. True. But it means something more, especially to Luke. He's my family's MVS, most valuable sarcasticator. That's what you call that special someone in your life. You're welcome. My surgically repaired nose aside, Luke's always had my back. Literally one step behind me as I walked into kindergarten and through high school. When he spoke, kids listened. But when I turned 17, he had my back and the whole country's. When he enlisted in the Marines, he was going to war. Former White House press secretary Dana Perino once said, "Sarcasm is like cheap wine. It leaves a terrible aftertaste." True. So you should chug it. Sarcasm can be off-putting to some, but comes with surprising benefits for us individually and our relationships. CNBC, October 13th, 2017, reports that sarcasm makes us more creative by encouraging us to think outside the box, represents the highest form of intelligence, and may bring people closer when in a trusting relationship. However, we must remember while sarcasm can form bonds, sometimes we need to be serious. Sarcasm, Not Guaranteed by Madeline. I know why some people dislike sarcasm. The word's origin means to sneer, bite the lip in rage, and tear flesh. I looked it up. So it makes sense it could harm relationships if someone's not all in. Luckily, my family speaks the same language, except once during a dinner before Luke deployed. Luke insisted we call it the Last Supper, because he had friends named Matthew and Mark. To complete the scene, he invited our 7-year-old neighbor, John. I wasn't amused. The next day, on our last brother-sister camping trip, we drove to our spot, right at the second redwood, left at the creek, and straight to the waterfall. Sitting by the fire, I realized Luke's sarcasm was hiding something. His usual warm, comforting voice sounded shaken. When he admitted he was scared, he saw fear well up in my eyes, and his tone quickly changed when he asked, who was going to pick on me when he was gone? It's easy to see when soldiers have been through hell of war, lost limbs, scars, but many others have trauma trapped inside. Looking at Luke when he returned, you wouldn't know he changed. He still left the cap off the toothpaste. He still left the toilet seat down for me, thankfully. It wasn't until you talked to him, you realized he did lose something. Because of one IED, a year into his first tour, he needed 2 surgeries to repair his jaw. He came home depressed. I thought that's why he wasn't talking. But after 3 days in his room, he came out with his medical release. Total deafness in his right ear and 90% hearing loss in his left. He finally spoke. It was slurred, hesitant, soft. It sounded like he was choking. He told me he had to take classes in ASL. I honestly thought he said class is an asshole. He would have said that joke himself before he left, but he didn't want to learn. But I told him I had his back. I would be one step behind, learning with him. Can you be sarcastic in sign language? I wanted to know. for Luke's sake. It was who he was, and I hadn't heard his sarcasm since he returned. I wanted him to say when I burped, "That's cute," to tell me to stop fucking cussing, to hear him say anything potentially hurtful, followed by, "I'm just kidding." I wanted Luke back. Sign language was hard for me, but harder watching Luke want to give up. When we would have a good session, I would make a sarcastic joke, and he would shut down. After 6 months, he insisted he couldn't learn. He would just type everything. He quit. Officially. So I got in his face, and I yelled, "I'll teach you how easy it is to sign." And I showed him one. Everyone knows. And I left. I didn't know who I was more angry with. Myself, the Marines, Luke. Unconsciously, I drove to our spot, right at the second redwood, left at the creek, and straight to the waterfall. Except it wasn't our spot, because he wasn't here. But I needed to walk around, even though the wind chilled me to the bone. I rubbed my arms to stay warm. I looked around and saw how desolate nature can be without people you love. Then I heard a car and Luke got out. Showed me a note on his phone. "Have you heard? Deaf people are better drivers." Yeah, okay. I signed. "I've been waiting." He put his phone into his pocket and signed. "If you keep rubbing your arms like that, you might start a fire." His signing was rough, but he continued. "I brought matches so you won't spontaneously combust." So we built a fire and practiced signing the rest of the night. It turns out there's a way to sign sarcastically. You rely on facial expressions. Like, if I signed, "Luke always saves me hot water," the meaning would change just by adding a mocking look or sneer. Or if I signed, "I never run away from problems," a knowing smirk would reveal the truth. Still, there were times I would forget Luke couldn't hear anymore. Maybe it was unconscious, wishing for a time I knew he'd never get back. We'd never get back. I would just start talking without signing, and Luke would gently touch my hand and sign in a language he knew I'd understand. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. In time, we became trilingual. English, ASL, and our language of love. Far from perfect, but still sarcastic.